Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events.
Depot Street, truck boy at
Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Biting Recaps here at Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. Another Monday, another victory. Lions over Colts 24-6 in Week 12. That's 10 wins on the season. And let's start there, Jacob. They have hit 10 wins before Thanksgiving. What win total are you now expecting for this team? We were in like the 12-13 camp before the season. So where are you at now?
That's tough. I don't want to ever experience another loss, right? Not this year. I want to just keep the ball rolling all the way to the Super Bowl. I guess I'll say that there's two more losses in the last before the season's up. Maybe it'll be, the last week we're resting our starters or something like that, hopefully, but I'll say we lose two more. But the capability for us to win every game left is definitely still out there.
Yeah, I think we should be favored in every game out there. The Buffalo Lions game is looming large. That's going to be a really good game. I'm excited about. I'll be going there. I'll be excited about that. I know San Francisco got walloped by the Packers yesterday, but we're most likely going to face a better 49ers team than what the Packers face. So then that'll be set up for a Monday night battle. But yeah, I'm with you. If 14 wins is a heck of a season, and that's what they would end up win if they go 4-2 the rest of the way. Anything 4-2 or better, I'm happy.
It's just the injuries, really. I mean, we definitely have the injury thing working against us. We've been able to overcome that so far, but we got another big test coming up with a short week here in the division.
Yeah, it's kind of early, but the injury report came out today was not favorable for the Lions, so hopefully we get a few of those guys back. We'll talk more about that, I guess, in our preview podcast. But that's looming large over the team, and we'll talk a little bit about the injuries when we get into the game here. I want to bring up the Daniel Jones stuff. So he got cut. He got waived, made it through waivers. I've heard some chatter about should the Lions be interested in him. Let's start there. Are you entertaining any thoughts about signing Daniel Jones for the league minimum for the rest of the season?
I think I would be okay with that. The idea of signing him would just be to have, a veteran around, help the team out more. He obviously has been around just for a little bit. We wouldn't ever be signing him with the intent on getting him suited up and getting him out there. But from what it sounds like, Daniel Jones camp and everything, that's, kind of what they're looking for right now is just minimum the rest of the year. He wants to sign on somewhere where there's going to be some sort of playoff experience. And then next year is probably a different story for him. He's probably going to go elsewhere and try to fight for a starting spot. So, I mean, why wouldn't you circle the Lions, the Vikings? There's one other team that I think they said it was a destination that he might be looking towards. Just, it's weird because the Vikings potentially have a spot for him. He could play into, over top of Sam Darnold, which, I would be okay with that. But yeah, what are your thoughts here? Because I'm okay with the signing for the minimum and keeping him on the roster, but I just don't. There's never a situation where I think that we need to give him any reps at all. And especially, let's say we have another blowout or something like that. Hendon Hooker, I think, should still be the one active and should still be the one getting the play time. It does us no good to have Daniel Jones for the rest of the year and have him suited up like that.
It's kind of touchy. I would be okay with entertaining the thought. The drawbacks that I see are it's going to take up a roster spot because you're not going to cut Hendon Hooker. So all of a sudden you're going to have another quarterback on your roster. and that's going to take up a roster spot, which with their injuries, we need a lot, there's a lot of things that we want to play around with. So I think it's almost a no-go just from taking up a roster spot. However, it would provide good insurance because I think Daniel Jones with this offensive line, I think we could have a better chance of winning games than with Hendon Hooker at this point for the rest of the season. So I could see the benefit from there. Also, the benefit is taking him away from if the Vikings do want him, because I could see him outplaying Sam Darnold. I know Darnold's done all right the last couple weeks, but Daniel Jones, I think he's better than Sam Darnold, at least in my opinion. It's hard to get a fair assessment on Daniel Jones because what wide receivers has he ever had? And Malik Neighbors could turn out to be really good, but it's his rookie season this year. But that just hasn't happened. So I'd be curious to see what he looks like in a different uniform. But I don't know. I'm not totally against it, but I just think from the roster spots, taking up a roster spot, it's going to be a no-go for the Lions.
That's a good point. I mean, like we already said, with the injuries and everything like that, can we really afford to take up another one? We need depth elsewhere.
Yeah, you're going to have that. And then we're hoping that those injured players come back. You're hoping Anzalone comes back. You're going to have Rakestraw back. You're going to have, guys hopefully come back at some point. And we're going to have to use up those roster spots. It was interesting talking about roster spots that they brought up Mahogany and put Awashika on, and Awashika was not on the injured report. So I don't think it had anything to do with injury. So you're wondering if Mahogany had passed him somehow in practice. So that was interesting from a roster construction standpoint, I thought.
Even more so after the game that Mahogany he only had just a handful of snaps and they were all on special teams. He wasn't really even used. So, yeah. I don't know if there's more to that. Emmanuel Mosley was also activated. He played, but he also only played special teams. He didn't even have a defensive snap. So maybe they're just slowly trying to get them, back in the swing of things with the intent on maybe playing more. But yeah, it's interesting.
I think a lot of times the Lions like the player to go through like game day prep and just kind of get them used to that before they throw them out there. I don't think Mahogany is going to be out there taking any snaps away from anybody, maybe on special teams, but not anywhere else, obviously. But Mosley, especially Carlton Davis, I could see him working his way into the lineup this week, possibly. So we'll see on that.
With his injury history, though, I mean, it's definitely, was probably the right decision to let him go through the motions, let him get the warm-ups in, let him play some special teams, let him get his feet wet a little bit. The next step ideally would be for him to start logging some defensive snaps in a limited role. And now because of injuries and because of, we'll get into it more, but because of the cornerback play last week, now he, you'd like him to be further along than what he is and be more capable of playing at full speed. But you also don't want, knock on wood, God forbid, just want him to stay healthy for his sake. I, feel terrible the way everything's gone for him the last few years. He had such a good training camp, just want him to come out and show what he's got and be able to stay healthy.
Yep. You're rooting for the human in this case. I feel like even if he has like a decent end of the season, I think he's going to want to come back to the Lions. All the chances the Lions gave him, and if the Lions want him back, they could have a role on a team. Hopefully we don't need him because of an injury, but hopefully he can come in and make some headway in this team. I'd love to see it for E-Man. The team loves him. They obviously kept him around for a reason. He was potentially going to be, going for that starting nickel spot all the way up until training camp. And then the injury happened. And it's not that Meeks played bad or anything that we need E-Man back, but they have that potential of another starting potential corner come in would be huge.
Yeah. Him and Amik were neck and neck. The cornerbacks were all really playing well in training camp.
Yep.
So, it's just frustrating for these injuries and everything to happen the way that it did. And, to be without Terrion, without Rakestraw, Carlton Davis is now injured.
Yeah.
This was a weak spot last year that we made a strength this year. And, now due to injuries and stuff, going to look a lot more like last year, potentially.
Yep, we'll see. AG was sitting on the bench towards the end of the game, probably, think a job well done. Well, now he's going to have his work cut out for him this week, but we can get into that in our preview podcast. The only other quick note is that JMO is not going to be charged with anything related to the concealed weapons charge that was announced today by the Wayne County prosecutors. So any worry about suspension or whatever, we don't have to worry about that.
They tried to make something out of nothing with that, and then it quickly kind of just went away when everyone found out there's no story here.
Yeah.
So then, now it'll be a story again just because, hey, he's not going to be charged, but, this is what we expected, right?
Yes, and that's fine. I'm good. I'm glad that part's over. Not that it was really looming. I hadn't really even given it a thought.
No.
But the people that like to make clickbait articles really did give it a lot of thought because, JMO's a hot topic, whether he's playing really well or when he's, maybe doing something noteworthy off the field. But anyways, let's get into our overall thoughts of this game. I'm going to let you start, Jacob.
It's hard to go over overall thoughts without getting right into a tangent about what I want to talk about with the offense and defense. But, I'll say overall thoughts here is just, we did enough to win the game. It was a, 24-6 win. We shut them out in the second half again. I feel like obviously we did enough to win. We played a decent game. I think a lot of this was the Colts shooting themselves in the foot, and we kind of capitalized on those opportunities that they kept giving us. Just kind of shows, the coaching staff that we have, the veterans that we have on this team. We knew that we were able to handle adversity. I wouldn't even call it adversity. I guess it was just, we kept answering the bell pretty much every time they brought something. We were ready to play.
Yeah, I just touch on what you said about them shooting themselves in the foot. It was the penalties. That was a huge part of this game.
Yes.
Penalties, 10 for the Colts for 75 yards. Lions at 5 for 45. But all the Colts penalties seem to come at the expense of a huge play. Now, a lot of times they got the huge play because of the penalty, either a hold or some sort of, offensive pass.
The pick play. Yeah.
Yeah, like those type of things. Like, yeah, the yardage is one thing, but then the hidden yardage is all the result that they could have gotten with the play. Now, it's hard to judge whether they would have gotten it if the penalty wouldn't have been called or whatever. But anytime the Colts were starting to get some momentum, they would create a negative play, and they just sometimes they could get out of it. For the most part, when it was 1st and 20 or 2nd and 20, they were stuck and they were going to end up punting the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it more, but outside of the first drive, I mean, the defense played very well.
They did. Couple things I'm going to get your opinions on. So Lions went for it on 4th and 1 in their red zone. They were up 14-6. I'm going to assume you agree with that call going forward in that point.
Yeah, that was one of the tangents that I didn't want to go off on right here.
Okay.
That was the only, like, I guess you would say questionable call or something in the game is should we have went for it? And, I 100% am on board with going for it on 4th down there. Let's see, it was 3rd and 2, we call it a passing play. Goff kind of had to try to evade some pressure and kind of dove for it. He didn't get it. 4th and 1. We come out in 13 personnel. So we've got Montgomery in the backfield, Amon-Ra out wide, 3 tight ends on the line. We've got the jumbo package. Everything about this says we're running up the middle. I'm 100% okay with going for it on 4th down here. Because if we don't get it, it's the same as if the drive didn't go well and we punt it. They're deep in their own territory. We're up 14-6 at that point, I believe. So, there's no harm in going for it there for me. My only issue with it was just the play call. If you want to try a play action pass to Amon-Ra or try to get a tight end to sneak outside, I just think they ran a misdirection. It was a counter play with Montgomery, and it was just completely blown up by Zaire Franklin. It was a great play by him. But, if you're running those misdirection counters and stuff, seems like that's probably more suited for Gibbs instead of just handing it off to Demo quickly. There's obviously a million different things that we can call there, and there's a million things that Ben Johnson does call there, and they tend to work out more often than not. I just didn't like that counter call there. which obviously, if it works, then no one bats an eye and no one's questions it at all. It's just a longer developing running play. And I mean, maybe that was the idea, is that they just weren't going to see that play coming. They weren't going to expect that play call. And if Demo does break that first tackle to the outside, if he beats Franklin out of that hole, I think he's got somebody pulling, so he can break to the outside. So, I mean, it was possible. It was a great play by Franklin, but okay, we're going for a fourth down. Don't like the play call.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm totally expected them to go for it. If they didn't go for it, I was going to be really surprised. However, I wouldn't argue with taking the 3 and going up 17-6, especially with the way our defense is playing. I think as a Lions fan, we're so used to, hey, we need to get all the points we can get. Well, the way a defense is playing, sometimes we could play to use that too. But I don't argue with going at 4th and 1. Give me the chances of Demo making that. I'm with you, though. It's a slower developing play. The only thing I could see is out of that is just running a bootleg with Goff outside that, because there was no one on the outside. He could have walked to that first down.
They really wouldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah, Goff running is kind of like everyone else walking. It's really easy to second guess that they didn't get it. They get it, then no one's arguing anything. I'm with you. It just seemed like a slower developing play. The Colts did blow it up. Like you mentioned, Franklin was right in there, and that really is what caused them to lose that. They got some penetration in the backfield, and Dave Montgomery wasn't able to break that tackle to get the first down. Goff knew it was dead in the water right when he handed it off. He kind of just walked off the field and was like, no, we'll get him next time. But defense is able to hold on, and, no harm, no foul, really.
Exactly. And it's, had that play call happen in a closer game and closer to midfield, then you're really worried about, what are we doing here? Why do we try that? Then you're more concerned about it. But because it was pretty much almost in the red zone, it's on their side, up already. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm cool with it.
Next, I want to talk about the couple penalties the Lions incurred that are questionable at best. First one, the Brian Branch penalty. I don't know if I'm intruding on your defensive talk, but I'm going to hit you on the Brian Branch penalty. What did you think it's a penalty?
I know you didn't get to see it live, but I was not happy with that.
Yeah.
Watching it live and seeing how it happened, it looked like the ref threw the flag as if it was a defenseless receiver. So, if you have to slow down the replay to like tenths of a second, and then you can see, okay, you know what? His helmet does actually kind of touch the other helmet. Just barely glances, you don't see that in real time. But I think, in my opinion, it's because it was Branch. He has that reputation. The refs probably already talked about it. They're already looking for it. He already had a play earlier in the game with Richardson where they both kind of led with their helmets and had a collision like that. So I think initially that's what the call was going to be, is that it was a defenseless receiver and like he was going out of bounds, because they did get together and talk about it afterward. And I've watched the replay 100 times. He's definitely in bounds. And, there's a chance if Branch lays off, then he could, reestablish himself and get more yards out of it or juke up field. I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion that he's already out of bounds before the hit happens. They get together and they talk about it. And anytime you lead with the helmet, you can get hit with that penalty. And they called it, lowering helmet to make forcible contact. That's the official ruling. That's the official call. How many plays have that happened in a football game? All the time. How many times does it get called? Very, very rarely. Usually it's the defenseless receiver angle or, No, I mean, really, that's the only time that you see that is if it's a defenseless receiver. You don't usually see that.
The only other time you see that is if a defensive player hits a player dead in the chest, just spears him with his helmet. I mean, that's
right.
Really what that penalty is for. And nowhere, that not even close to what Branch did. Like you said, he did lower his helmet, but you try to tackle someone without like running your head first. It's impossible. So I mean, he barely glanced the helmet. He's, like you said, he's not a defensive receiver. He's established, possession. He's running, and now we're throwing penalties for people being in bounds and getting hit just because they're close to being out of bounds. No, he's on the field of play. He's allowed to be hit. This is the game of football. hits are going to happen. I know we want to make the game safer, and I'm all about that, but you cannot take away that hit in football. I mean, if he wanted to go out of bounds, then he should have just walked out of bounds instead of, doing what he did. I was very upset when I saw the play happen. And like you said, you have to slow that down so slow to even see any helmet to helmet contact. And any of it is just like a slight glaze. It's not like he jarred his, it's not like you see the head fly or the face mask fly or anything like that. Most of the contact is with the player's shoulder.
It was nothing like the Packers play. It was nothing like that. I mean, this was honestly a really good football play.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not allowed to hit stick anybody anymore. So that's about as good as it's going to get. And now even that's a penalty.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well,
ridiculous.
Go back to the Evan Ingram hit from the last game. You wonder why that's not a penalty. I mean, that was almost the same exact hit, except for he doesn't have any contact with the head. I mean, that's a tough football play, and it's a legal play. He hit him in the shoulder. I don't get it. Another penalty that's questionable was the Jahmyr Gibbs penalty. Is that a penalty in your mind?
I think it's a penalty. I mean, no. I think it's a penalty because of what he said. I don't know if the ref heard that and that's what he did, because the stare down when you're on the field, that's soft. If that's all that was Satan turning around and looking at him and like tossing the ball, that's a soft taunting penalty.
Yeah.
But, it looks like he told him to get the F out of here. And, I'm okay with that. I'm sure the Colts defender didn't get his feelings hurt about that. It's, that's football, man.
I'm sure that plenty
It's
is said
soft
to
either
Gibbs
way.
when he gets hit. I'm sure they're saying, in the pile, saying 10 times worse what he said
Right,
there. It's just the
right.
fact that you're about to score, you're going to get that stupid taunting penalty. At least they gave him the touchdown, and it wasn't like, because he was taunting him the whole way into the end zone. So, I mean, I guess you could call it a penalty for taunting him on the field, and then all of a sudden you're, first and goal from the 17 or something like that, and that would have sucked. So I was thankful they gave him the touchdown, and you just basically push Bates back into his happy zone on the extra point.
Right.
So
did you get the celebration the first time? Did you understand that reference?
what one was that? The Iverson one, or
Yeah.
was that? Yeah, no, I did not know
Until
but
I
saw
posted
some tweets. Yeah, I saw some tweets and all that stuff. Yeah.
So backstory behind that, I don't know if you saw that too. So the Lions receiver room, almost all of them wore like throwback basketball jerseys on the way there.
Yep.
So Ja had the Iverson. I think Amon-Ra Saint had the Vince Carter. There was Kevin Durant jersey, Supersonics. I think Ray Allen. It might have been Craig Reynolds with the Grant Hill, like the Teal Pistons jersey. So yeah, it was cool. They all had like the basketball jerseys and stuff on. Well, Gibbs had the AI jersey on. So after he scores, he has Amon-Ra come over and they reenact where he shoots over the Lakers, Tyronn Lue, and then steps over him.
Mm-hmm.
Which should have been back when you were watching basketball, Jason. That had to be like 2001.
I'm sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was watching basketball back then. Side note: I've been watching some Pistons game lately. They've been playing better. And
Really?
It's interesting, and
Yes.
so I haven't told you that. Yeah,
Yes.
I've been watching a little more basketball.
What do you think?
It's all right.
It is way different. I know.
It does. All right. The other thing that was from the game was the injuries. The amount of injuries we're facing, mostly on the defensive side, but Taylor Decker did get banged up, came out of the game twice. So I mean, we're racking them up on the defensive side. Yeah, Leaf too. Yeah, and that was on a special teams play. Yep. Yeah, we're racking them up. So that was the other story for this game. And based on the injury report today, a lot of those players did not practice today. It would have been a walkthrough. They weren't going to do a practice on Monday, but with a short week because we're playing on Thanksgiving, they got the injury report early on a Monday, and it did not look good. All right, let's go into special teams. You got anything for that, or you want me to start off?
No, I mean, special teams handled their business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
You can go ahead and give them the breakdown.
Yep. Bates kicks. First of all, they're looking better. Even his extra points are more down the middle. He's looked good. He had a 56-yarder field goal, and then, like I said, the 48-yard extra point because of the Gibbs taunting penalty. made 2 other extra points on top of that. The other player is, you got a game ball, Jack Fox, field changer, pinning him deep. Just, he's so solid, especially with your defense playing well. It's so important to pin these teams deep and make them get conservative, and then they end up punting, which is exactly what the Lions want, and then they get the offense back into a better field position because Jack Fox is pinning them so deep.
Yeah, when they're deep in their own territory, then you start getting to where these second and long, third and long play calls start getting more conservative just because you were field position. They have some of the deep ones where they're forced to run, even when they probably want to try to create a throw, just because you can't punt the ball from inside your own end zone or short, especially against us. But speaking on the injury that you just talked about, because this is a big one, honestly, for Khalif Raymond, because he's hurt. He's not going to go on Thursday. We don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but which is huge in itself because he's obviously a great punt returner for us. But Saint was the one back there when Khalif went out, and I don't know if anybody who was on board with that. Obviously, speaking outside of the team, any fan, anybody, any announcer, anybody looking at it is like, don't, when I first saw him out there, I was like, okay, you know what? Sure hands, we're just going to fair catch it. And he fair caught the first one. The first time he returned it, I was like, get him off the field. Do not let him return another punt. How did you feel about that? You got to feel the same way.
Yeah, I get it. He's probably the emergency punt returner. I was all about what you said. Fair catch it and just get the offense on the field. Don't risk an injury to Amon-Ra because, frankly, we can't afford an injury to Amon-Ra. He's a pillar of this offense, and he's sure-handed. Such a good relationship with Jared Goff. Yeah, I didn't want that. And the the first one he fair caught. The second one he ran out of bounds, and I think it was a third one that he got tackled. And he's on the injury report now, and the worry is that he got injured on that play. I don't understand why they were risking any injury with him, especially with the game. We were in control of the game the whole time, so we didn't need any game-changing plays on punt return. So, yeah, I'm not about that. But, he might have been there. He's their backup. He's sure-handed. So that's, maybe that's why they did that decision. But I don't think you risk an injury with Amon-Ra. It's not worth it.
No. But now the next question here going forward, if you're not going to have Amon-Ra, do you because Dorsey's the other kick returner, do you let Dorsey try to return punts back there? Because I don't know about his hands and how he's going to do with the punt return. Or I know Maurice Alexander's on the practice squad. Do you activate him and let him handle the punts from here?
I'm thinking that that's the route that's going to be taken. If Khalif is inactive, we don't know if it's going to be an IR stint or not. We don't know the extent of this injury. It didn't sound like an IR injury, but we don't know yet. So, they brought Maurice Alexander back. If it's just a short, 2 or 3 week thing with Khalif, then you could elevate Maurice for the 3 games. That you can elevate him on the practice squad. He can return kicks for you too, because Khalif is doing, back there on that too. And we know Maurice Alexander can return kicks. And then you just kind of use someone the experience. I think that's the route that they're going to go. If this just depends on how long Khalif's out. But yeah, Maurice Alexander has experience with that. And you don't have to, have the injury worry that you have with Amon-Ra back there.
Had we not lost Isaiah Williams, he'd have been the perfect plug back there. Just,
That's correct.
Unfortunate the Bengals stole him away from us.
Yeah. Lions got stuck with injuries and having to,
They had to subject him to waivers, and that's what, that was bound to happen.
Yes. We were hoping that he'd skate through there, but he did not. And yeah, right, he would have been perfect in this situation because he could have returned kicks, and then he could also, did the punt return thing too.
And also possibly add value in the passing game.
Exactly. Yeah, he had some of the Khalif crossover, right? That's where, there was a duplication of talents there. So he could have stepped right in on that. But, I wish him well with the Bengals, as long as he's not playing Lions. But he could have been useful in this situation. Let's get on to the defense here. Stellar performance again. No touchdowns in the last 10 quarters. I don't know if you know this or not, but they shut out the whole AFC South in the second half, have not allowed them to score, any of those 4 teams to score in the second half on us. And that's pretty darn cool.
Definitely huge, step up by the defense.
Yep.
I do want to talk about, I've got a little bit of a breakdown here just because I don't remember if I talked to you about this or not because I knew you're at work, but, the defense played a great game. We already kind of talked about how the Colts really, did not help themselves. They had penalties on a lot of big plays, but, that first drive, they had a lot of outside runs. There were a lot of option plays. It was an 11-play drive, and that was really the biggest threat that they had. The difference in the first drive, and even the first drive, I think Anthony Richardson had maybe like 4 carries or something like that.
3 carries for 35 yards.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And then, the next drive, I think he maybe only had like 1 or 2 carries. It got less and less as the game went on. And I really think that was because of the defense's play, right from the get-go. They have that 3rd and 1. He breaks off a huge run. Kirby hits him in the open field. Great tackle by Kirby. But then Jack Campbell comes up behind with a big hit. And I don't think he saw that coming. So in the very next play, they call a quarterback sweep. So he runs around to the outside. He almost gets the first down. He actually got hit by Zeke Turner. So that was nice. Zeke got to the outside and had a hit. But then Rodrigo ends up laying a hit on him and slams him down. And, his helmet is kind of messed up on the ground. He's really slow getting up. I thought he was hurt right there. And then it was different from that point on later. And I think that we got to him on the first drive. And I think that's probably why the Colts had to kind of switch it up. Because if you look and play by play, that first drive was called completely different from the rest of the game. And they did not move the ball as effectively as that first drive. The only other drive that they really had effective was just when they were, hitting those shots, unfortunately, when they were finding where Vildor was lined up, and that's where they were trying to go. And they had some success there. But first drive, those couple of big hits kind of took Richardson out of the game.
I agree. I mean, it'd be really hard to run a game like that with like that first drive and have Richardson take those hits repeatedly in the game, especially Richardson. Last year he didn't even play a full game because of the injuries. He's already had some injuries this year. And yeah, I think he looked totally shook at that Rodrigo hit. He went down and he was like slow to get up. And that happened like around the 4-yard line because that created, I think, 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1, and then
it was 2nd and 1, and then Rodrigo hit Taylor for no gain. He kept him from getting the first down, and then the 3rd and 1 is when they had an ineligible man downfield.
Yes,
because they probably would have went for it on 4th and 1, but they had that penalty and kicked him back.
That's what I was going to ask you about. I mean, I think that was a genius move to take the penalty because I'm exact.
Oh, yeah.
It was 4th and 1. They were going to go for it again. They played really good defense on 3rd and 6 and, forced them to a field goal. Because I would not have given them a 1-yard shot, especially with the way Richardson was running on us on that first drive. They probably would have ran some sort of outside, power run with Richardson. I would have at that point,
right.
and they were having success with it. So I was happy that Campbell took that penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that before, and like keys of victory is like you can't. If they consistently get 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, if it's 3rd and short or 4th and short, they're going to be able to go for it just because they can hand it off to Taylor. Rich can run to the outside. They have somebody leaking. There's a lot of different things they can do with a mobile quarterback like that. So, yeah, definitely right call to bounce him back.
Yep. Yeah, so just to wrap up the Richardson, 3 rushes for 35 yards on that first drive, but he finished 10 for 61. So that means the rest of the game, he was 7 rushes for 26 yards. We kind of saw that in the Arizona thing where Kyler Murray had some rushes early and then we bottled them up afterwards. I think in this case, it was a matter of us putting some good hits on Richardson and they knew he wasn't going to be able to take that punishment. And it's also just adjustments. Campbell said so in the post-game conference. Post-game press conference. It was mostly a couple missed plays by defenders just being out of position and not holding the edge or, just being a little bit out of position that created some of those. So they probably cleaned that up a little bit. I mean, you're practicing against that, but you're not practicing against Anthony Richardson because he's a one of well, I'd say one of two because he's kind of like Josh Allen, huge guy that basically like we said, a tight end playing quarterback, and that's a monster. And that's what makes me really happy that Kirby got him down in the open field because that's a freight train coming at you.
Well, they had an open field with him and Branch. They both lowered their helmets, and then he, got some more yards out of that.
I was about to say he took on Branch, probably our hardest hitter, and on the team, and Richardson came out on top on that one. Wasn't Branch's best game. He had a couple misplays here and there, but still a good game overall. But
the one though, you had that play against Richardson where he's trying to lay the hit on him. You're hoping that you got guys around you, you're going to slow him down, which he ended up getting maybe I think 5 or 6 more yards out of that. But I don't remember the receiver, but he had one that he timed almost perfectly. He had a really nice hit across the middle, but the receiver held on, bounced off, and then ended up getting some more yards out of it. So technically, they're going to go down in the book as missed tackles. He had another one where he was lined up way off. I don't know if it was on zone or man, but if it was in man, he was way off his guy and allowed 9 yards before he even got to him. So it's not the best game, but there's some circumstantial things there.
Yeah. Well, the play you were referencing before, he got caught in the middle of going for a pick or hitting. It was like he couldn't decide it, and if he'd have timed it just a half a second ahead of time, he had a pick 6 on it. He just read it just a tad bit late. Richardson fired it in there. Richardson reminds me a little bit of early Stafford, where Stafford would just throw 100-mile-an-hour fastballs no matter where it was on the field. Because some of those passes Richardson was throwing, man, receivers going to get broken fingers if they're trying to catch that. He'd be 5 yards on the field and he's throwing it at 100 miles an hour. No touch. It was just all arm. Crazy.
He did have a couple of nice touch passes. The deep ball they completed was actually really nice, but he did miss some of his targets too. And then also, when you're throwing him that fast, when he's in the red zone, that contributes to why they're not catching the ball too. They're just not ready for it coming like that. You don't, that comes with being a young quarterback though. You're pressured, you're in a hurry, you're trying to get it there, and you end up firing it too much. Your own guy can't get a hold of it.
Yeah, that pass to Ogletree that was down, that he dropped right by the end zone. I don't know if that was too fast. It looked like a pretty good pass to me, and Ogletree just whiffed on it.
Whiffed it.
Yep, because that should have been a red zone touchdown for them, but I'll take it. Lions, their best third down defensive team in the NFL. Again, 3 for 12. That's all the Colts got was 3 for 12 on third down. This is in vast contrast of late last year with the Lions when it'd be 3rd and 16 and they would get.
And you're still worried about.
Now when it gets to third down, I feel like that's pretty good. We're going to get off the field. So I'm pretty happy with all that. We got to give Aleem McNeil all the praise in the world. Wow. He had a heck of a game.
Absolutely. And, if you're not watching the game and you're just looking at the stats, he had 1 tackle and 1 quarterback hit. So, you're like, well, guess he wasn't involved too much. No, he was terrorizing them.
Well, that's why Richardson was less than 50% completion, because half the time his own offensive lineman was sitting in his back pocket because Aleem was just pushing him through. There were multiple pancakes. Pancakes are usually offensive linemen dominating a defensive lineman. No, it was the other way around. Aleem McNeil was just manhandling his guy. And that's the benefit of having DJ Reader. They were trying to go one-on-one with Aleem. They don't have DJ Reader. They're double teaming Aleem and taking their chances with the other guy. Well, you can't leave. DJ Reader is just too strong. They got to double team him. Aleem just manhandled his guy. He's having a heck of a season. If Hutch was here, it'd be even more noticeable, I think, because Hutch would be commanding more attention, and Aleem would probably get some more sacks. And really, the line should have got more. They didn't get any sacks, but there was 2 plays that they basically had Richardson in their grasp, and just Richardson was just too strong and just kind of threw the ball away. No chance of completing the pass, but he was just throwing it away.
There were some bad ones. He had an intentional grounding, too.
Yeah. Intentional grounding. And they didn't throw the flag right away. And I was like, how was that not intentional grounding?
Right.
He was in the middle of the pocket. Aleem had pushed his guy all the way back into Richardson. And Richardson was just throwing it, and the ball lands, and it's not within 15 yards of anybody. It's like, this is.
He was shocked. He was shocked that he had no receiver over there, too. Whatever the play call he thought it was, he thought somebody was going to be right back there, and there's just nobody around.
There was 0 people around. It was great. And then they almost got that, sack fumble in the end zone. That was a really close play. Just so close. And Zadarius Smith picked up the ball. It almost looked like he scored a, touchdown for the Lions, but
Right.
didn't happen. It was a great play though.
Yeah, I mean, Zadarius, he played 67% of the snaps, but he was also a force back there. It seemed like he was involved in almost every play. DJ Reader, we talked about him. He had 2 quarterback hits. It was the same thing. They're just collapsing that pocket on him. And when that happens, I talked about that before. For whatever reason, Anthony Richardson doesn't seem to feel pressure up the middle. It's just like he's too late getting there, and he's already determined that he's going to throw the ball or that he's going to run or whatever. So then he's taking all these shots downfield, and he just, they connected 2 times, but the one, there was a penalty. That might have been the hands to the face on Aleem. I forget. There was a penalty on one of them, so yeah.
The hands to face of Aleem was a long one, and then there was the pick play too. That was a pretty long one.
Oh yeah, it doesn't count.
Open. Yeah.
I hate those because there's always like the, yes, clearly he's wide open because he got picked, and they're like, well, if you heard the announcers, like, well, Pierce, I think it was Alec Pierce, like he didn't really initiate the contact. He kind of got in the way and lifts his hands up. You know exactly what he's doing. He's not running a route. He's picking the guy. You're not right past the line of scrimmage. I think you're allowed within 1 yard, right? Is that the rule? You get 1 yard. So, I mean, you're 4 or 5 yards down the field. You got to do a better acting job, I guess, if that's what you're supposed to be doing. You can't put your hands up, and, it was just bad.
Right.
It was
when you put your hands
obvious.
up, you know you did something bad. I mean, it's like waving the flag like, hey, look at me. I just committed a penalty, but I didn't mean to, right? No.
Or you watch every punt. Watch every punt and where, that's like, is it blocking the back or not? They constantly, they'll run with their hands up. Like, you're still pushing them in the back, even though you're not doing it with your hands.
Again, the defense is playing real. I'm finally glad that people are on board and they're giving them credit, because early in the season, I know the Seattle was probably not our best defensive performance, but they've been really, really good this whole year. I think DVOA, their number 1 defense in the league right now. I know Monday Night Football is going on, but I don't think that's because the Chargers are up there, but Chargers are giving up. They're giving up 23 points so far, so I don't think that their DVOA is going to go up this game. Aaron Glenn, I know Ben Ronson has gotten all the assistant coach praise, but Aaron Glenn is, especially with him producing with all the injuries. Ben Johnson's been fairly lucky with, injuries this year. Aaron Glenn has not. I mean, our best defensive player went out in week 5, and they just keep rolling. I mean, if anyone thought that they were still going to have this good a defense after Hutchinson left the team, I was going to be shocked, because I thought we were going to lose a lot. And we have lost pressure. I don't think we're creating as much havoc in the backfield. But, now that we got Zadarius, I mean, the Hutchinson thing kind of flagged that we got Zadarius, but Zadarius is a solid player. You can count on him. He's reliable. He's going to get pressure. He's going to hold an edge. These are all the things that we talked about when we traded for him, what we were looking for, and he's produced on all that.
Absolutely.
Player we didn't mention on defensive line was Josh Pascal, and again, I thought that he played really well. Held the edge a couple times. There was a play I was rewatched the condensed game this afternoon when I got home from work, because like I said, I didn't have a chance to watch it all the way yesterday, and I paused and I wanted to show Preston. I'm like, I want you to watch this play. It's not an amazing play, but if Josh Pascal doesn't hold this edge and force Jonathan Taylor up into the middle of the defense, it's a totally different play, and it totally goes unnoticed. But Pascal held the edge. He's doing a really good job. When he was out, we were given a lot more outside runs. Since we've gotten, Zadarius and Pascal in our starting lineup back again, the outside runs have really diminished, and I attribute a lot of that to Pascal.
Definitely. I mean, he's not going to be a speed rusher, but he is able to collapse the pocket, and he's definitely able to hold the edge. I thought he played really well. I think Pro Football Focus gave him like a negative grade, so I don't know exactly what they were looking at. I do know what you're talking about. I mean, he had a couple impactful plays like that where he did his job. You're holding the outside. I know they had one because Long played, And there was one big run, I think it was by Richardson, and Long kind of collapsed inside, and they just, he had the outside up like that. It's so important to contain that outside. You don't have to be the one to make the play. You've got to be the one that controls where he can run, though. You take the outside away, you make him cut back up the middle. You let your teammate finish the job.
Yep. Yeah, it's about doing your job and counting on the rest of your team to do their jobs. When you start trying to be a hero, yeah, it might work out once in a while, but no, that's how a huge play can happen. I mean, if you're going back to the Minnesota game when Terrion Arnold crept in and Aaron Jones just went to the outside, got that 34-yard touchdown run. That's what happens. Terrion's job isn't necessarily to make that tackle. His is to hold the edge, make Aaron Jones go to where the rest of the team is. And, that stuff can happen if you're not doing your job.
That's actually where I was going to go, was just with the Terrion thing, because, there's been a lot of people that have been kind of on him and talking about, is he a bust? Is he really impactful? And we've both been on his side throughout this whole thing, ever since the first time we saw him in training camp. It's like, this guy's good. He's got, the sticky coverage. He's right on top of them. He's not allowing anything. Yes, he's gotten some penalties that he needs to iron out, but it was 100% apparent that Terrion Arnold wasn't out there and that we needed him out there.
Yep. Yeah, he's, I'll use the word again. He's sticky in coverage. He is on his man. And Vildor, you could see, again, it was shades of last year where guys are running open deep. I'm not saying Vildor's bad, but there's definitely a difference between him and Terrion. And I'm hoping that this game people can appreciate how good Terrion's been this year, because you don't see people streaking deep on him at all. And, I know he'll get the penalties, but that means he's right with his man. And those little things he can clean up. I think there was a report Terrion must have said that a ref stopped him and said, hey, you're really good in coverage, but you just need to lay your hands off at the top of the route and look for the ball. And that's exactly what we've been saying and that's a coachable step. I think we're seeing progress with the, keeping his hands to himself. It's just at the top of the route, he just needs to look back at the ball and make a play on the ball instead of play on the man. And
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I mean, the hard thing, you can't teach him athleticism. You can't teach him instincts. He has all those things. It's just a matter of technique at, the point of attack. And, he's also good in the run game. He'll come up and do his, and make tackles in the run game. He's doing all the things right. He just needs a little more growth. The fact that he's playing so much man as a rookie in the NFL just tells me that AG counts on him. And like I said, AG's a good defensive coordinator. He knows that position more than anybody else. He's excellent at it. He wouldn't have him out there if he didn't believe in Terrion. And so I see good things coming for Terrion. He just needs to keep, making the growth that we've seen other players with the Lions under this regime make. Second-year growth, third-year growth. And cornerback is typically a tough position to play a rookie year. So hopefully we just keep doing the growth. But I'm hoping he's back for the Bears game, especially if Carlton Davis is out. I want, Terrion back at least to cover that, and if Carlton can't play. All right, let's move on to the offense. Where do you want to start with this one?
I mean, let's start with the quarterback, right? I mean, sure. Jared Goff had a really good week before this. Seemed like he was really on. I don't think that he had a very good game. I know what the stats show. I mean, his throws were just off. Even the ones he connected on, the ball was coming out wobbly. I think he did show, his ability to move around in the pocket and create time on a couple of those plays. Mm-hmm. He had a 27-yard throw to Tim Patrick. That was on, where he kind of scrambled and made extra time, but he missed Laporta deep. He just looked off a little bit. It seemed like he was feeling pressure that wasn't there. And then when the pressure started getting there, then it just became more of a problem. So how do you feel? I did not think it was a great game by Goff.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't one of Goff's best games. I could tell you that. Right. I think he played well enough to win. That's how I characterize it.
Yes.
Didn't make the mistake, didn't throw a pick. He had one that was close. Cleef I think it was, you threw to Cleef and it was a little off. What was more apparent was the timing between him and Laporta just seemed off. And I'm sure that's because of the injury. And just, I think there's I think Laporta missing a lot of training camp because of injury has shown up a lot this season. It just doesn't seem like him and Goff are on the same desk. There was a part where he was like, 25, 30 yards on the field, and Goff just overshot him way over his head. And it just,
I mean, if you watch that play, though, I mean, Laporta kind of has to camp down. He's got somebody over
Yeah.
top of him.
yes.
It just seemed like Goff overshot him.
Yeah, I know. Goff is usually accurate, so I don't know, where he thought he was going to go with that. And there was even a shorter play that he kind of, Laporta kind of bubbled the ball, and there was another missed pass to Laporta. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he wasn't exactly on his game, and usually that's when Goff feels hurried for no reason. I've also talked about if there's good linebacker play, Goff seems to
Yes.
struggle with that, and so I mean we're going to have concern with the Bears game coming up, but he played well enough to win. Didn't make any dumb throws where you're just like, why did he throw that? So I'm okay with how Goff played in that game. He managed the game well, and he was able to hand it off to our running backs and let them score the touchdowns this game.
That's the biggest thing. If you're not going to have a good game, at least you're not turning the ball over. And he did have, the one that was really close. He also, Amon-Ra had another good game, but they did break the streak. Amon-Ra had 6 catches on 7 targets. And, that last one that was a incompletion was a very bad pass. And he got pressure in his face. Amon-Ra actually had his man beat. He just wasn't, he was looking for the end zone. He wasn't ready for the ball to be thrown short. And if the corner had turned around, that probably was an interception there. But it was just one of those things where he had to get rid of it. He had pressure. Probably should have chucked that one out and, not lobbed it up like that. But, obviously hindsight, hits the ground. It's harmless. He was getting rid of it.
Yep.
Almost wish they would have counted that as a throwaway instead of a target, but,
Yeah, I know. Just to keep that streak going. But, also the other streak that was ended was the touchdown streak between him and Amon-Ra. No touchdown in this game. I think it was like 8 straight games that they had thrown a touchdown pass. And then if they would have scored touchdown, that would have been another, because I think Gibbs, Montgomery, and St. Brown have scored, eight games where they've all scored a touchdown, which is the most for a trio in the NFL history. And that would have been another one because, both Gibbs and Montgomery scored. Let's start with Gibbs.
Tied. I think they're tied right now for like the 3 of the trio, but just the 2, Gibbs and Montgomery, like those 2 scoring touchdown in the same game. I think they're like 4th on the list or something like that now.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to break that thing before it's all said and done. Gibbs, let's just start with him. 21 carries, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. And yeah, he's the man. Just gets to second level so fast. It's unbelievable.
Right. Fire him out of a cannon, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the first touchdown that he had. He busted the outside. Those defenders have to defend that corner because they know Gibbs can go there. And then, when they start over defending that, Gibbs just knifes up and scores a touchdown. That's how he got the first one. The second one, they tried to cut him off in the hole, and Gibbs just ran to the outside. And, that's when he turned his back and started
had to stare him down
at the 2-yard line or whatever he did. So, yeah. And then Monty, I know he got injured. It looked really scary because he came out without, go to the locker room without your pads on. I was like, oh no, that's not a good sign. But then by the end of the game, he's got his pads on, and for all accounts, what he said, he could have came back on the field and played. But Dan Campbell said something to the effect of, "There's bigger fish to fry," meaning, we want you for this next game more than we need you in this last, 10 minutes of this game. But he had another angry run. I posted it on YouTube. It's one of my favorite runs of the game. It was a 3rd and 6. Again, 3rd and long, and we're still running it.
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, I know you didn't get to see it live, but, I kind of knew. I knew on both of them, especially when I saw the defense. Like, we're running it here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we keep surprising teams with these 3rd and long runs. And I know that, say, if they defend the run, then they're just opening, lines are just going to pass. They probably have 2 play calls going, but I mean, Montgomery, I love Montgomery runs because there's like 3 levels of every Montgomery run. It's the handoff. He runs up, he gets first contact, and you think, okay, he's going to get a couple yards, and then he gets another run, and then the third part is when the offensive line pushes them for another 2 or 3 yards afterwards. There's
When they
always
start
like
dragging
3
people.
levels. Yeah, I just there's nothing that gets me more fired up. I mean, I love a good Gibbs, 70-yard run. That'll get you fired up. But just for momentum and just like everything you want, the attitude, everything, the Montgomery 10-yard run with those 3 different steps, that is, a heartbreaker for the defense, and just, just the attitude you want from, you want to show from your team.
Agreed. Yeah, we had that first. So that was on 3rd and 6 when he had that huge 14-yard run. I don't know if it wasn't the first drive. Well, it was 3rd and 8 when Gibbs ran. He got a 17-yard run too.
Yeah.
And then even the announcers later, it was like 3rd and deep or 3rd and 7 or something like that. And they're like, if I'm the Colts, I think I'm defending the run here. They've already showed you what they're going to do.
That's fine. Let them start loading out the box on those long. That's like playing right into what the Lions want to do. Then you just play action pass it, and Amon-Ra's or Laporta's running right over the middle behind your linebackers, and
Right.
get first down that way.
Yeah, I trust that. Like you said, they've got a play call. Goff, I'm sure they have a kill. They've got something where it's like, hey, we might call this run, but if they're lining up the way we want it to, we're gonna audible, and we'll find the open man for sure.
Ben Johnson's all about that. Like, we don't want you to know what we're gonna do, and it's amazing on a 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 6. Every other NFL team is going to be passing. It's an automatic passing down. For the Lions, it's not. And I mean, part of it's the skill position players that they have, that they're in the offensive line, they're able to control that. But another part is that they're willing to do it. And they're also willing to go for it on 4th down. So that's the other thing that goes into those decision makings. Okay, say we get 5 yards on this 3rd and 6. That means we're going to go for it on 4th and 1.
Absolutely. It makes you more comfortable with your play calls.
Yep, for sure. I think Goff said it today that, he knows, he doesn't know for sure that they're going to go for it on 4th down when they call a 3rd down run, but it makes them feel like, yeah, that's the call. Like, we need to get, 80% of the way there. We can't have any negative plays. And if we get there, then we're going to score it on 4th down. He said they treat 3rd and 8 kind of like 2nd and 8. We just need to get into a favorable position, then we can go for it on 4th down.
Right. And it's been working for us.
So the
offense
offense
last week. The 4th down didn't work this past week, but that's okay.
No.
More often than not, it does.
Yeah, no. I still agree with that decision. Yeah. Get the 4 extra points rather than the field goal. But who knows? They went for the field goal later in the game. 56 yarder. I meant to ask you earlier. There was a point in the Tampa Bay game in game 2 that we could kicked a long field goal. It would have been in the late, like long 50s, like 58-yarder. It was deep in that 4th quarter of that game, but instead we punted and played defense. End up working out. We ended up getting the ball back. But hindsight, now that we've seen Jake Bates' leg, have confidence in him. They probably kicked the field goal in that spot, I think, to get within less than 3 points. Feeling confident about Jake Bates doing it. So I'm thinking that they've grown to that point. Dan Campbell might have been willing to kick that field goal. Same game situation nowadays, or now, this far in the season.
Right. Knowing what we know now.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably fair. I know that I have more confidence in him than I did before. I was really nervous. And, it's knock on wood. I know the announcers were talking about it too. I don't know who it was. The one refused to say it because he didn't want to jinx him, but he's perfect right now. And that's, for a rookie kicker to go this far, I think we're the only team in the league that hasn't missed yet.
Yep. Anything else on the offense that you want to talk about?
No. I mean, it was we expected we were going to be able to move the ball. It wasn't a perfect game, but we played Detroit Lions football, man. We moved the ball. We put points on the board. We kept the lead. We kept them at bay. Played another complete total game with our team. And, the only thing is you wish we would have come out of this a little bit healthier to play the Bears. We have the divisional game coming up. Mm-hmm. But, we take it 1 week at a time. We weren't going to take it lightly on the Colts. So,
yeah, we dominated in time possession to 37 minutes, I think, to like 23 minutes, something like that. You're not going to beat the Lions if we're dominating that much in time of possession, especially when you get down the red zone and can't score, right? I mean, defense, they got all the way down to the 4-yard line, the 11-yard line, held them to 2 field goals. Lions were 3 for 4 in our red zone appearances. The one was the go for it on 4th down. So, that's been the story of, almost every game this season. We get down there, we score touchdowns. We don't let them score touchdowns. And that's why we're 10-1. And, before Thanksgiving, we've had 10 wins. This is any other
Awesome.
season with the Lions. We're like, oh, we get 10 wins. That's a good season for Lions. Now we're there before Thanksgiving. And it's an awesome feeling. Before we head out of here, our grit guarantees, we both missed.
Hey, mine is invalid.
Yeah.
You don't get to say that I missed.
No.
Read it to him.
I will. So Gibbs and Monty, one go over 100 yards. That was mine. Gibbs got close with 90 yards, but didn't go over the 100-yard mark. Jacob said Taron Arnold gets his first pick, and he said if he can't play, because at that point he had a groin injury, then Ennis Rakestraw went out. So if you're wondering...
Hey, I said that at work. I wasn't on the pod.
I know.
On the pod, I said Taron looking at his first pick.
Yeah.
At work, we're like, I don't know. Taron might not play. I'm like, you know what? If he doesn't play, it's going to be Rakestraw. Soon as it was right after I said that, Rakestraw goes on IR, Tarion's out. So then I decided, for the benefit of the team, I was not going to name another player that might get hurt or be out. So I just called it void right then and there.
All right. Yeah. So that's the reason why people are injured. It's because Jacob, he's all superstitious. So I
they were
know
both
that.
injured before the game, though, too. So you know what?
Yep. Let's see. We'll see what you pick this week, if you think TA is going to get one this week or not.
We'll see.
We'll have to wait for that for the preview podcast. We're going to record that tomorrow night and have that out Wednesday, because we kind of want to have that out early before the game on Thursday. So probably this week and next week we'll have because there's Thursday games both weeks. We'll have it out on Tuesday. And
Wednesday.
We'll do it Tuesday and we'll have it out on Wednesday. So anything else, Jacob?
No, I'm good, man.
I just want to say a couple things about our YouTube channel. It's going really well. We're getting these shorts up. People are commenting all over, and I just want to highlight one comment that I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was some to the effect. We put one up at the Brian Branch on Evan Engram hit, and someone said something like he better Engram, because he got knocked back so far, is like Engram better have brought his passport because he almost got knocked into Canada. And I thought that was hilarious. That was my comment of the week for that. So yeah, if you want to check out our YouTube channel, we got shorts up there. Some of the plays, it's quick watch, but it's fun to watch. So you can check that out. And I guess we'll be up here recording tomorrow night, Jacob. So we're get your voice to recover. Make sure you do your vocal exercises like Ariana Grande. And yeah,
I learned mine from Anchorman.
Anchorman. Oh, yes, I'm kind of a big deal. All right. For Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.